All right, guys, everyone knows that 600cc bikes are basically dead. No one's buying them, nobody cares, and the party is basically over for these high-revving super sport motorcycles, which makes me really sad. They're literally my favorite category of motorcycles. You guys know I ride a Ducati Scrambler Desert Sled on the daily, and I've got my dirt bike and stuff, but really, you and I both know that the Daytona is the bike that sits right here for me. I love super sport motorcycles, I love going fast, and I will always simp for 600s, but they are going away, and in its place, in my opinion, is this new twins class style of bike, and it is seeming more and more likely, and the rumor mills are coming out, and some photos are coming out, and stuff is happening, that Yamaha's gonna make a YZF R7. So today we are going to discuss this new YZF R7, what it could be, what it needs to be, why it could actually be better than the outgoing YZF R6, why it could be something that could be really cool for entry-level riders, intermediate riders, expert-level riders. This should be a wide, appealing type of motorcycle, so stick around, we're gonna talk about it today. So as many of you are aware, Aprilia has dropped a very interesting and important motorcycle, in my opinion, the Aprilia RS660. Now, I don't wanna spoil anything, but I may or may not have a pre-order, and I may or may not have an Aprilia RS660 arriving to the shop here that I bought myself that may or may not be a giveaway bike. But if you join on YammieNoob.co and join our Discord server, you may or may not see some behind the scenes footage and cool stuff about my RS660 that may or may not appear. Anyways, the RS660 has paved the way now for perhaps a new category of twins class bikes. These are small two-cylinder sport bikes, typically in the 650 to 690-ish cc category. And Yamaha is kind of destined, in my opinion, to follow suit. So let's discuss. Number one, there's no more R6. Basically, Yamaha is halting production on those. The last ones that are come out of the factory are gonna be track-only motorcycles, and then they're probably not gonna make any more of them. Number two is that people already race Yamaha MT07s in Twins Cup racing. I think back to the FZ07R by AP Moto Arts, which if we can just take a moment, we're gonna take a look at the photo gallery on their website, and oh my God, the blue one is the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen. You gotta love a race prepped bike. None of the crap from the street is there. It's streamlined. Look at those fairings. I love this one they have down here that's got Rossi's livery on it. That is so cool. If you look closely, you can see the tubular subframe they've made, all the changes they've made to it. These are so cool, and this gives you a hint of what is possible with these motorcycles. So the swing arm is the same on the AP Moto Arts FZ07R, so that's a good sign right there. They didn't have to make a custom swing arm, so the existing MT07 swing arm will work well. That tubular subframe I was talking about is pretty crazy. There's no need to do that on a production motorcycle. Non-factory supported MT07 race bikes see right around 95 to 100 horsepower, which is pretty awesome. Any more than that, you start running into reliability issues from what I understand about Twins Cup racing, but Yamaha could certainly make a reliable 95 horsepower parallel twin. I don't think that would be an issue for them, literally at all. Number three, they are lighter, or they can be lighter, and they are torquier than 600s. This makes them a way better and more flexible everyday motorcycle in a street configuration. So if you're using this motorcycle as your daily ride and your occasional weekend/race toy, you don't need to wind them out when you're out and commuting on your favorite roads. You can keep them in a higher gear, use the torque down low on an engine. I've had the pleasure of riding and owning both an FZ07R and an XSR 700, and I really, really enjoyed that motorcycle. The platform, that 689cc cross-plane parallel twin, is just a delight to ride around on the street, and it makes a great sound. I would love to see that in a sport package. And number four is we've seen the RS660's big hype and success so far. I don't think Yamaha would want to get caught out in the rain if some other manufacturer decided to swoop in, which we're going to talk about at the end of this video. And they can be cheaper than 600s as well. There's less moving parts. It's It's a much simpler, compact engine configuration, and if you get the weight down, it can be just as competitive as a 600. Another big point is that Yamaha now has a huge gap in their fully fared motorcycle lineup. You've got the R3, which is a tried and true great entry-level point for beginner sport bike riders, but then you have this enormous chasm all the way to the R1. And I don't want to hear in the comment section that an R1 in D mode can be a stepping stone motorcycle from an R3. That is literally so inappropriate for an intermediate level rider. I don't want to even hear that. So they need some sort of product between those two motorcycles to really fill the gap. But what's the point, right? Isn't this just kind of like a worse R6? This R7 would be some kind of bastardized version of an MT07. Why not just keep the R6? Well, it definitely, as I mentioned, makes a lot more sense as a street bike to have a parallel twin engine that is nice and torquey over something like the R6. But it is true that the R6 is probably still going to be a faster and more competitive motorcycle for sprint racing and 600 class bikes. Now, if we can start taking a moment to dream and think of this, because I am literally head over heels with the idea of Yamaha making an R7, so if you will allow me to just really dive into here and talk about what it would take to make an R7. So for me, the first thing they gotta do is they gotta put a Yamaha R6 front end on this bike. You gotta swap out the forks, you gotta get beefier forks, fully adjustable suspension, proper brakes on this thing. It needs to have better brakes. You cannot have this motorcycle with the master cylinder and caliper combination that the MT07 has. That is just simply completely inappropriate for a sport bike. The feel through the lever on the MT07 would not suffice for a true sport bike. It would take quite a few geometry adjustments, in my opinion. The rake would have to change from the naked bike, the wheelbase would have to change, the height of the motorcycle would have to change. A lot of the engineers have to spend some time thinking about how to make this motorcycle work, mostly because the engine is smaller and more compact, and I'm not sure how it sits in the frame. So if it's higher up in the frame, you'd have to make some different adjustments versus if it's lower in the frame to make the handling really nice and solid. But Yamaha makes the R1, Yamaha's made the R6, they've got probably a legion of engineers who know exactly what to do to make this motorcycle feel awesome on the side of the tire. The other big thing would be ergonomic adjustments. You cannot simply take an MT07 and just put clip-ons and just go to town. You have to raise the seat, you have to raise the rear sets, and then you have to lower the handlebars, or the clip-ons in this case as well. You gotta get that rider triangle to sit well for the person who's gonna be fully tucked behind the fairings, down the back straight, and carving up corners on the side of the tire. You also would probably need a new gas tank. The MT07 gas tank is a really weird shape. You'd want something more flat so you can perch your chin and your chest onto is when you get that full tuck. So you'd have to make quite a few adjustments to both the ergonomics and the geometry on the motorcycle. I really think you would need a new subframe for this machine as well, just to get that seat height all sorted out. I don't think you could get away with the tubular subframe that the FZ07R has, as we were mentioning. The big thing for me is they would have to get the price point right. I think it would have to be at most $10,999 at the very, very most. I'd prefer to see something in the $10,499 price range. For me, I think if it had simple traction control and electronics, that would be fine. I don't think it needs the full suite of electronics like the Aprilia RS660 has to be a competitive machine. That's just my take on that. The bike would probably need some gearing changes as well from the naked version. It should probably max out about 135 or 140 miles per hour to get really good drive, but that might be a little bit too aggressive, and maybe in a street configuration, you can do a +2 or -1 in the front and get that proper drive. Obviously, it would need super sticky tires from the factory. It would need Supercorsa SPs or Q4s to be properly competitive, and the weight must be below 400 pounds ready to ride. It has got to be under that weight. It is unacceptable for this motorcycle to weigh 420 or 425 pounds. Then it wouldn't make any sense. Here's what Yamaha should not do. Yamaha should not just take the MT07, slap plastics, and put clip-ons on it and call it a race bike. If they do that, I will literally sever my allegiance to Yamaha. I will not simp for their motorcycles anymore. If Yamaha literally just puts plastics and clip-ons in the MT07 and claims it's a YZF R7, I'm gonna lose my shit. I'm not even kidding. Now, we were talking about other manufacturers following suit and what this class would look like. I think the next step, the obvious step to make here, is that Suzuki should follow suit with an SV650R. The SV650, even beyond the MT07, is the Twins Cup bike. It is literally the defining Twins category motorcycle. People have been racing these for damn near 20 years now. There's so much knowledge about how to make an SV650 work well on track. People have been swapping Gixxer front ends on these and making them into their own bikes and racing them on weekends. The SV650 is a super popular platform, and Suzuki should definitely make an SV650R. Now, all that being said, I'm very excited and tantalized by the prospect of a Yamaha YZF R7. Now, obviously it's not going to be like the original R7, the 749cc 5-valve crazy motorcycle that they made back in the day, but this could be an amazing and awesome competitor to the RS660, a great street bike, a great track bike, a flexible and good motorcycle that can be used for all kinds of different purposes. You could pick one up as a race bike, you could pick one up as an entry-level rider, you could pick one up as an intermediate rider, you could have it as a second bike. This is a motorcycle that could sell really, really well, particularly when you consider how well the MT07 has sold for Yamaha. But of course, what do you guys think? Let me know down below. And remember, I am going to be picking up, may or may not going to confirm anything, in a Aprilia RS660. If you want the chance to see behind the scenes and exclusive content on that motorcycle, join down below on yammie.co. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.
Between this and my desert sled, you might think I'm just some horrible biscotti boy, but really, if you click this video right over here, I will prove to you that I love more motorcycles than just Ducati biscottis. Click it and find out.